19 times. That is how much worse Russia's ratio of casualties to territory gained has become in a single year. June 2025, 68 Russian soldiers lost per square kilometer taken. June 2026, 1,298 Russian soldiers lost per square kilometer taken. Same month, same war, 19 times the cost, for a fraction of the ground. And while that number was being calculated, Ukraine struck Russia's fourth largest oil refinery for the second time in 8 days. Welcome back. The week of July 1st to 3rd, 2026 produced a cascade of developments so interconnected and so severe that no single headline captures what is actually happening. So today, we are going to look at the whole picture: the burning refinery, the empty gas stations, the mutinying soldiers, the collapsing front, and the single number that makes all of it make sense. Let's start with the refinery, because this one is different from those that came before. The Lukoil Nizhegorod Nefteorg's Intez plant in Kshtovo, Nizhny Novgorod Oblast, is Russia's fourth largest oil refinery and its second largest producer of gasoline. Annual processing capacity: 17 million metric tons of crude oil. Before the war, it produced 5 million tons of gasoline per year in Chvastis, enough to supply the entire Moscow region and provide fuel to the Russian military. On the night of July 1st to 2nd, Ukrainian drones struck it again. The AVT-6 primary crude distillation unit, which alone accounts for 53% of the plant's total processing capacity, was damaged. The refinery suspended wholesale fuel sales on the commodity exchange immediately after the strike. But here is what makes this strike so significant. The AVT-5 unit, responsible for another 25% of the plant's capacity, had already been damaged in an attack on June 24th. Do the math. 53% offline from the new strike, 25% already offline from the previous one. That is 78% of the plant's processing capacity eliminated across 2 strikes 8 days apart. The refinery has effectively stopped functioning as a major fuel producer for Russia. And this follows the Kropotnya refinery in Moscow, confirmed offline until at least the end of 2026, and the Bashneft refinery in Ufa struck twice in the same week. Russia's fuel production system is not being degraded. It is being systematically dismantled refinery by refinery, processing unit by processing unit, on a schedule that Ukraine is keeping with precision. Now look at what this means across Russia, because the data is no longer theoretical. Radio Free Europe tallied the official restrictions. As of June 24th, at least 55 of Russia's 83 federal regions were reporting mandatory fuel rationing or restrictions imposed by private fuel companies. That is the majority of Russia's territory. And here is the detail that makes the fuel shortage uniquely dangerous for Russia in a way that a financial crisis never could be. Fuel is physical. You cannot print more of it. You cannot transfer it digitally between regions. Moving fuel from where it exists to where it is needed requires trucks, and those trucks also need fuel to run. Russia is now caught in a feedback loop where the shortage itself makes redistribution harder, which deepens the shortage in the regions farthest from the remaining functioning refineries, which are already the most remote and least connected parts of the country. In some regions, drivers are now assigned fuel access by license plate number, even numbers one day, odd numbers the next, a system that hasn't been used since the Soviet Union. In Irkutsk, in oil-rich Siberia, National Guard units were deployed to manage fuel queues, to prevent violence, not to manage distribution. Residents have been stabbing each other's tires, drilling holes in fuel tanks of vehicles ahead of them in the queue. Al Jazeera, citing local sources, reported the crisis is now described inside Russia as deep, with no end in sight. A Kommersant industry source said the situation will not improve in July even in the best-case scenario, and the seasonal demand peak of August and September has not yet arrived. And now the crisis has reached Kaliningrad, Russia's Baltic Sea exclave, geographically separated from the Russian mainland. Fuel stations empty, queues forming from 4 in the morning, deliveries sold out by 10, public transport paralyzed, taxis unaffordable, a Russian city on the edge of the European Union collapsing for lack of gasoline. Now let's connect this directly to the battlefield. Leaked internal communications from Russian military channels near Kharkiv, west of Vovchansk, describe a complete logistical collapse affecting elite units. The 83rd Separate Airborne Brigade, VDV, Russia's elite rapid reaction paratroopers ran completely out of fuel on July 1st. A Russian military blogger reporting directly from the sector wrote, "The boys have absolutely nothing left. Total logistical failure." Another report from the same period described Russian soldiers near Sarita ordered to sprint across open fields to connect two isolated positions. The forest ahead has been nicknamed the Magic Forest by the troops, because the only magic there is Ukrainian FPV drones that find and hunt every Russian around the clock. 4 separate squads refuse to advance despite severe threats from command. They plan to dig into the last man rather than attack. Mutiny in an elite airborne unit on the front line, because there is no fuel, no ammunition, and no way out except across open ground under constant drone fire. At Pokrovsk, one of the most heavily contested sections of the entire front, Russian armored vehicles have effectively disappeared. Ukrainian frontline units confirm they are no longer seeing armored vehicles on the Russian side. Russia has reverted to sending small infantry infiltration groups simultaneously in multiple directions, gambling that some will get through. Ukrainian Drone Forces Commander Robert Brovdy and Jopobor Magyar reported that between 15,000 and 20,000 Russian soldiers in the south are now cut off, their supply lines severed and their logistics destroyed. Intercepted Russian radio communications reveal open discussion about the only alternative to death: surrender and captivity. Now pull back and look at the number that frames all of this. ISW confirmed that Russia's territorial gains in the first half of 2026 amounted to just 97 square kilometers for 1.4 million total casualties since the war began, and 39,490 casualties in June alone, 1,298 casualties per square kilometer in June 2026, 68 casualties per square kilometer in June 2025. Russia is paying 19 times more in human lives per kilometer than 1 year ago, still advancing. At 15 meters per day, Zelensky put it directly. If Putin wants to send another million soldiers to keep fighting against this wall, those million Russians currently queuing for gasoline should think carefully about what awaits them. That sentence contains everything. The wall is built from drones, fuel strikes, and severed logistics. The queue is real, visible from satellites, and the soldiers have not been drafted yet. The cascade has a logic. Ukraine destroys the refinery. The fuel runs out. The generator fails. The drone loses power. The unit loses communication. The soldier has no support. The position collapses without a single direct engagement. And understand what this means for Russia's winter. The Severny Zavod, Russia's annual summer resupply operation for its most remote Arctic and Siberian regions, must begin now. Every summer, fuel, food, and goods must be shipped by sea, rail, and road to places that become unreachable when the rivers freeze. If that operation fails this summer, and the fuel shortages suggest it may, Russia faces supply crises in its most isolated regions before the first snow falls. Putin's empire is being squeezed from every direction simultaneously, from the refineries in the west to the supply depots in the east. No infantry offensive required, no territorial gamble, just the patient, systematic removal of everything that keeps a military formation alive in the field. Russia's advance has collapsed, its fuel is gone, its soldiers are mutinying, and the refineries are still burning.